welcome everybody. This is Connor Schenk, and today you're listening to the Constant Sports Podcast. You might recognize Sal here on the podcast today. He's also a co-host, so we thought we'd get Sal here in the hot seat, talk a little sports business, sports talk with Sal. So thanks for joining us today, Sal.
Connor, what's going on? Thanks for having me.
Of course. You know, it's good to have you on this side of the seat now. Usually you're over here, we're interviewing guests, so now we'll be able to kind of pick your brain. Fans have been, emailing in, asking questions. Let's get Sal on the pod. So, here we are.
As we expected. Excited to be on this end of the podcast. Definitely feel a little more pressure. Feel like the questions are going to be head my way versus asking the questions. So I'm ready to rumble, though.
Yep, let's do it. So background on Sal here for the viewers who may not know Sal. So he is currently the operations coordinator among many different hats he's wearing at Teal Properties Group, also known as TPG. Previously, he's been with the Sun Devil Athletics, Arizona Cardinals, Denver Broncos, and a few other places. So basically, we're just going to go straight into the sports business talk today, graduate school, sports marketing, things of that nature. So I guess really, what have you been up to these days, Sal? What's keeping you busy?
Well, at full-fledged ahead with the TPG here. That's the first job I was able to get coming out of the Masters of Sports Law Business program at Arizona State. So just been working here at TPG. We're in high school athletics, specifically in sponsorship. So kind of the model that was built in the collegiate level with their sponsorships and everything. The founder of that was Ben Sutton. He created this company, ISP. Later was bought by Learfield and in Denver. So same principle here at the high school level with TPG. So been working here for a year plus now, doing operations and everything like that.
Yeah, so I see you got the UK healthcare shirt on here, so I know you were out there a little while ago.
Correct. That's a great way. That's a great way to segue to our sponsor of this podcast is UK Healthcare. So proud to be promoting them. Best healthcare in Lexington, Kentucky.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, and I know you did some time there in Kentucky. I think it was Kentucky. You did a high school tournament there. Was that in Kentucky?
That was correct. Yeah. So I was working the basketball championships in Kentucky. It's actually a unique experience just because the way they build it up is they take the top 16 teams in the state and play it as the Sweet 16. So, in other high school states and everything, they kind of break it up by classes and that kind of deal. Don't matter what class, don't matter what it is, the best 16 teams come play the Sweet 16 tournament at Rupp Arena. So quite an electric atmosphere. And I was down there working that event specifically, kind of making sure all our sponsorship assets were fulfilled.
Man, so what went into the sponsorship asset stuff? Is you doing a lot of cold outreach? Are you making sure, company A has to do A, B, C, and D? Are you running? It sounded like you were kind of running around, your head was cut off. You're going a million miles an hour type of deal. One of those events.
Yeah, great question, Connor. So this is, like I said, this is kind of one of our unique events, definitely one of our biggest ones. And specifically on this end was kind of just the fulfillment part. So all the assets had already been sold. We working alongside the director of partnership services with TPG here, and we were just there kind of fulfilling everything. So that entailed specifically a lot of in-game promotion. So whether like during halftime doing a free throw contest or musical chairs, or handing out a student section, we'd hand out ice cream bars and kind of do a promotion on the video board and everything kind of sponsorship wise that you kind of see at normal sporting events we sell into here at these high school championships.
Got it. One, I know you got another one coming up as football season, 68 days or whatever it is away from kickoff. I know you're kind of starting up another event, so I don't know if you can dive into that, but you've been working on it for a while now, so I'm assuming these events, they're 5-6 months, at least into planning,
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. So like you said, many hats I wear here at TPG, and specifically with this high school event. This is the Charlotte Kickoff Night we host here in the Charlotte metro area. We fully operate this game, so we choose the teams that play in it. We choose the venue it happens at and everything like that. So specifically, I've kind of been the point man this year on the full operations of the game, kind of coordinating everything, connecting with the ADs and coaches, connecting with our venue, our sponsors, everything like that. I've been the point man this year, so we're definitely getting ramping up here and getting ready to have that event here in the next couple months.
Oh yeah, sounds like a wild time. So what's it what's it been like being the point man? And a lot of responsibilities. I mean, we're running teams. What's that been like for the viewers to kind of dive into the world of Sal here?
Yeah, it's definitely a step up from my past year. Kind of, I was just a utility guy, kind of just helping him where I could. This year, it's been all on me. So, definitely an added pressure, but it's been fun to take on new responsibilities. Kind of having to divvy out responsibilities, kind of being the manager, if you will, on certain different tasks, as well as being able that first outreach and to all whether it was the venue or whether it's sponsors, kind of that first outreach, hey, connecting, this is what we've got going on and coordinating everything. So it's been a challenge, but definitely has been rewarding.
Yeah, no, yeah. Sounds like it's going to be cool, and I think it's just cool to see an event so far in advance that you're working on, right? So we've been kind of talking about it off air, and then now you've been working on it for so long, so it's kind of cool to see, especially for you, I'd imagine, see it like fulfilled and from start to finish is a cool process.
No, absolutely. It's unique because, like you said, I came in as an operations coordinator. So the main tasks of my job, like 50% is doing the contracts. I build out all our contracts, our sponsorship contracts. Within that, also kind of like administrative work on that, on our office side and sales operations with our GMs who are selling the sponsorships. But with this is kind of new avenue, like you're talking about. This is more event operations. This is the planning, the execution of a full-on event. This was not something I necessarily knew I was getting into, or something like I definitely didn't kind of see myself going down the event operations path. But just within this role and this opportunity coming up and taking advantage of it, it's been unique. And yeah, like you said, there's a lot more work that people don't see within events. They just see the Super Bowl pop on screen and be like, oh man, look at this. This is a cool game I get to look forward to every year. They don't understand people have been working on this for years and years at a time now, and what all goes into it.
Right, and taking advantage of the opportunities is huge. And as you were in grad school, we were there at the Arizona State Sports and Business program. You graduated, and then you went straight into TPG. And if I remember correctly, we graduated, and you drove out the next day, if I remember right.
That's correct.
To Winston-Salem.
Yes, that's correct. You're talking about the mythical story of how I got here. Yeah, definitely graduated. I believe it was a Wednesday night. Drove 40 straight hours. Got to my apartment here in Winston-Salem. Unloaded my stuff during the weekend, and that next Monday I was working. So that's a mythical story, and I can confirm that did happen.
Yeah. So a lot of chatter about how that works. So you went from grad school right into the workforce. So what was that like? Not many people have that opportunity that quick of a turnaround. It's like, okay, you graduate, you got 3-4 months, whatever it is, and then bam. But in your case, it was graduate school for a year, and then bam, workforce.
Right. No, that's another great question, Connor. I would tell you it's nice because you already know what's going on. You're like, boop, this is what I need to do. I jump right in.
Yep.
You're getting the learning experience. You're getting that experience that everyone in the sports industry is going for. That's all they tell you. Get experience, get experience, get experience. So that was sweet. I checked all those boxes. I'm ready to rumble. Mm-hmm. However, looking at it, I do admire some of the people that took a pause, were able to kind of wait the summer out, because we graduated in May, so we still had that summer. Wait the summer out, really be picky with that opportunity. And I know it's crazy to say you just graduated from your master's, like you need any type of experience, like get with the first thing that comes. Mm-hmm. But I actually admired the people that were picky about whether it was an internship or whether it was that next job opportunity, because then I feel like they were able to kind of take a moment to breathe, digest things, and make the best decision for themselves.
Right. And so, as we were talking about, you're out there in the you would call it the Charlotte area. I mean, that's within
an hour north of Charlotte, of course.
Right. And so we've talked about this off air before, but Charlotte was the third ranked sports business city. Was it third?
That's big time. Yes.
It was third or something like that. Was it Dallas was first? I can't remember. or Austin or
I,
something like that?
I wish I remember the list now. It's been a while, so I don't want to start getting myself in trouble, acting
So,
like I know more than I do.
right, right. So I was just kind of getting to the point where you're Colorado. You worked in the West Coast with the ASU, obviously in Arizona, in the West Coast, and now you're on the East Coast, and Charlotte being, as I believe we think is correct, the third best, I guess, sports business city in America. So what's
That's
kind of the
correct.
sports industry? What's the vibe like out there for those who saw Charlotte and like Charlotte's sports? Like they have the Panthers and the Hurricanes and what's kind of the industry like out there from as you've been out there for a year and some change now?
Vibrant is the word I would use to describe it. You can feel the energy. Charlotte's a young booming city. It's another kind of city like a Austin, Texas, if you will. Kind of all the kids are graduating and they're moving to Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big city, but it's got a small town feel. And like you said, you hit on big points. It's got some of the major sporting events, whether it's professional football, professional basketball. They've got hockey in Raleigh, so the North Carolina area's got some sporting events, and like I said, it's vibrant, it's young, and there's a lot of people out here, and within that, you've got some of the big agencies, the big companies headquartered in the Charlotte area. So there's a lot of opportunity, and within that, just like you said, from my experience, Midwest kid,
There
went
it
to
is.
school out west in Arizona State, but coming out to the North Carolina area in, if you will, the SEC territory, you feel the college sports, the college football excitement. So
Mm-hmm.
that's been unique and exciting as well.
Well, and that's actually now that you brought that up, the college football, college experience. I mean, we've kind of talked about this, but I think the listeners would be interested. You've had some interesting run-ins and experiences out there, being a Penn State fan. Not going to Penn State initially and whatnot. So, what's the vibe out there? I mean, or what kind of college fans are we talking here?
We're- Not to get myself in too much trouble, but we've got ourselves the high level, high intensity fan out here.
Mm.
College football, college sports is everything. Professional sports isn't really that big out here. It's all about the college football team, and the way that the fan bases are built are based on the school you went to.
Mm.
So if you go to Alabama, you're an Alabama football fan. You're not an Auburn fan.
No.
You're not a LSU fan. You're an Alabama football fan. So, like you're detailing earlier, myself not going to Penn State and then being a Penn State fan had a lot of people in the area confused. They didn't understand it. So it's one of those things, a cultural difference, but still doesn't mean I don't love my Nittany Lions.
Right, right, right. And looking for a big year for the Nittany Lions for sure. But I kind of want to hit on the kind of the sports business side. I guess just the business side of college sports in of itself. So have you seen much of a change out back east? I know you said kind of everyone's rabid and intense fans, but I feel like I don't know if it's taken more seriously, but I just feel like there's more fan, as far as like the product on field, on the arena, on the court. I feel like the East Coast and the South, those conferences, generate more of the, I guess, the revenue, more excitement than maybe, like the Pac-12 Mountain West.
Yeah, yeah, you're right on it, Connor. And I've been privy to kind of been to a couple of these sporting events, and SEC sporting events specifically is what I'm talking about, and it's a different level. Like I said, the fans are high intensity. They're very proud of their alumni and what the school they came from, and
Yeah.
specifically, I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, you're talking these college football stadiums are packed like NFL stadiums, and every day doesn't matter, or every week, it doesn't matter if their team is the bottom or the top of the rankings. They're showing up. They're proud and they're loud. So
Yeah.
it's something I'm looking forward to. And like I said, I've been to a couple of these sporting events, and specifically should be attending the Kentucky South Carolina game in person later this fall.
Wow. Yeah, there it is. So here, we can run through this real quick. So I'm looking at
We can
the
run through it.
Power Five conference media rights deals. So the Big Ten, seven
Big Ten's
year.
got the biggest one. Go Nittany Lions.
Look at that, dude. It's a
Yes.
$8 billion in total, which is an average of 1.15 average value for 7 years. That expires in 2030, and with their media rights, partners being Fox, NBC, and CBS.
Right.
And then
Eh,
so
Yeah,
that's
not to go for it.
no, you got it.
I was just gonna say, just right on that point, we're talking Big Ten media rights. That's the big thing with them. Massive deal, big time money. They got UCLA and USC coming over in a couple of
Yeah.
years. But specifically, what's going to be so beautiful about this layout is you're waking up, you got Fox, big noon kickoff, boom, Big Ten football. CBS 3:30 used to be dominated by SEC football. Big Ten football being played on CBS at 3:30.
There it
And
is.
then to cap it off just beautifully, just imagine this. You've got a cold beer in hand, you're enjoying a nice Saturday afternoon, rolling into the night, prime time NBC night game, Big Ten football. It doesn't get better than that, Connor.
No, yeah, that's detailed perfectly, and I think it is, interesting to note that this 1.1 billion dollars is in the Big Ten, divided up by 16 schools, so that's 70 million per school, which is that'll
We're
pay the
making some
bills.
money, aren't we?
Yeah,
We're
that'll pay
making
the
some money
bills.
now.
That'll pay the
Yeah, that
bills.
will. Ah, beautiful.
And then the SEC/SEC Network, which starts next year, is a 10-year, $710 million, which, that's not, you're not a B man, but 710 mil, that'll also pay the bills.
Well, what does their deal go through now, Connor?
That
Big
is-
Ten's was just read-up last year.
Yep,
this
so that Big Ten's going to 2030. SEC/SEC Network starts in 24, 10-year deal going to 2034.
Fascinating. See, I think the big kicker there is, well, I don't know why there was such a sizable difference.
I would think you're getting Fox, NBC. This says media partners, right? So it's Fox, NBC,
Right.
CBS, and then they're having 16 schools with a few additions. And the SEC, so this graphic shows SEC and /SEC Network has its own deal with ESPN as a media partner, and then SEC, just as SEC as the property, has a deal with CBS, which is a 15-year deal. That expires this year, so maybe they're just lumping it into that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens, but
Right.
no, big time. You're going to see the transition. We've talked about it off air specifically with the new playoff breakdown, the new media rights, new influx of cash, if you will.
Mhm.
I'm excited to be for college sports and college athletics. I think it's a booming market, especially we haven't even touched on NIL or anything like that. This is about to become a real deal thing, and I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, for real. And then now with the whole NIL thing and all this money coming in, they're talking about like revenue sharing, revenue generating for the players and the employees. Like it's a whole thing, and I'm not sure it's going to get ironed out, anytime soon. In my personal
Nope.
opinion, I think it's going to take some time. I would assume
Absolutely.
there are going to be some mistakes made. Unfortunately, I'm assuming some collectives and or schools are going to get put in timeout, you could say.
There you go.
With
It's the
the
best
IRS,
way to word it.
With the IRS dropping their 12-page memo or whatever the other day and basically saying that collectives that are nonprofits, you're not really a nonprofit, so, we're coming after you, that'll raise some red flags if you're an SEC collective that's, generated $8 million and you're now not what you thought you were, so that's something to keep
Right.
an eye on as well.
You're right on it, Connor. And a nice little tidbit I heard on the Buzzcast recently. For those that
Shout
aren't
out.
listening to it, Sports Business Buzzcast. Everyday listen. You want to be in sports business, that's what you listen to. Anyway,
Shout out.
what I heard recently on that, thanks to big Abe Madcourt, is specifically that the NCAA boop sent out a memo to all the member schools. Hey, you need to follow our guidelines.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your state does, your state legislation. You need to follow ours, and you could be in trouble if you don't. Which is funny because in the state legislation, it even says, don't worry about the NCAA states because they cannot fine or suspend you because it's state legislation. So
Right.
funny how it's all working out right now. I can't wait for it, but big move by the NCAA there.
Big time. And I know you're familiar with the individual Dan Lust and his podcast,
Yes.
Contract for Tremendous.
Absolutely.
So he had some funny tweets regarding that and the whole, state laws and, the old thing called the laws, or influential. You can't just say you're following our laws when that's in
Yeah.
fact not how that works.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That was, I understand the member schools and everything, but that's an interesting thing. And the point they're trying to make is trying to push Congress to step in and make
Right.
federal legislation. Because right now, that's our biggest thing. It's so different
Mm-hmm.
between each state. It's when they call it the Wild Wild West, when it first initially came through, that's what it meant. In one state, you can do all this kind of stuff. In another state, you can't do anything, and it's causing major problems throughout college sports. So that's the big thing. We get Congress in there, make federal legislation about everything. It cleans it up, is what they're hoping for.
Right.
And we'll see.
I mean, and like you said, I'm just trying to pull it up. There's only a certain amount of states. I think it's like 29 or something like that have NIL laws, and then there's some states that are like no, and then like in Texas, high school athletes can, and some states you can't. So it's like
Correct.
it's all over the place. So wild model. But speaking of all over the place, let's talk about your Denver Broncos a little bit and put on our GM hat here. So, I'm just taking a look at the website Spotrac for you listeners. That's a good spot to kind of crunch some numbers. Let's just check out, and see who you're paying the most.
That would be Russell Wilson, quarterback. $49 million this year.
Yeah, he's making quite the sum of money here. I mean, that's quite the contract you guys are eating up there.
Yes.
The so he signed that 5-year, $242 million. Conservatively, you could say he laid an egg last year. I think that's fair to say without hurting anyone's feelings.
Easy to say.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a good amount of free agents out there in the market. So, you're the GM of the Broncos. What's kind of your game plan here? Are you trying to go make a splash here? Let's see where you guys are in the cap.
No, I wouldn't say we're trying to make a splash. Like I said, our roster's pretty built. We're paying a lot of people, and we've got a good, solid, young foundation. The key is just going to be putting it together, and I think it was tough seeing another first-round pick go away. Boop, sent that off. But when you get a adult as a head coach finally, you got to be excited. Sean Payton's the real deal. He's a Super Bowl winner. I have no doubts he's going to be able to come in and get this thing turned around. Now the question is, can Russell Wilson play quarterback still? I mean, it's one of those things where, like, when a player's in a slump, it's okay, they're just in a slump. Like, they're not, like, they haven't fallen off a cliff. Like, they haven't forgotten how to play quarterback. Well, last year it looked like he forgot how to play quarterback. So our hope is that this year, new scheme, new coach, everything's going to be just a full reboot, refresh. We're back at it from scratch. So currently, I like the way the roster's planned out. I did send you a tweet. People can go back, fact check me on this one. Dalvin Cook signing. I still believe we are in play for that. Our running back, Williams, from North Carolina, he's been a stud. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL last year, so coming back from an ACL, it takes some time. So I think getting Dalvin in would be a phenomenal booster our run game, because that's how we're going to win. Run game to long passes. Run game to long passes.
Well, that was kind of Wilson's thing, was the deep ball, and he, you said, he forgot how to throw a football last year. His deep ball was atrocious.
Yes, it's kind of like the Padres bats. We go into the season. I mean, a star-studded lineup. We're thinking home run after home run. It just looks like the bat is not hitting the ball, which is kind of the main point of what you're supposed to do when you swing it.
Yeah.
It's just
It's
just not seeing it this year.
No, we can dive into that in and of itself. So the Padres are coming in, and arguably before the season had started, penciled in. I mean, looking at that lineup, you're like, that's got to be one of the best lineups in the league. Let's just let's call it how it is, right? So the lineup's looking fantastic, especially after our year last year, right? We go to New York and we absolutely just dog walk the Mets. I mean, they're still the Mets have not recovered from what we did to them last postseason.
Very good point. Very good point.
I think that falls under the bridge here. The Mets, they're, whatever they are, terrible this year. Out the Padres. But I think we did break them. I think we, in fact, broke Buck Showalter and the polar bear, Francisco Lindor. we broke their spirits. They're Max Scherzer. They're not able to recover. That's just how it is.
That's as a Padres fan, you got to hold on to any hope you can get, because that's what it's all about being a fan. And that's a great one to hold on hope for is, well, we may be going down, but we took the Mets down with us, so all is good. I like
all
it.
is good. Right. And so, yeah, like we're saying, runners in scoring position, I think we're like 28th in the league, which is atrocious. But, our pitching staff, I think we're like 5th or 6th in the league. So we don't give up runs, but on the converse, we don't get runs. So that's not a good formula to have,
No.
And the games are just brutal, to be honest. I mean, unfortunately, I watched the Pirates and the Padres series. Atrocious.
That
I will say
had
the
to be a
Pirates.
tough one.
No, yeah, I heard Pirates Stadium. I've never been, but it looks like a real good stadium. They got a cool backdrop down there. I don't know what bridge that is, but it's yellow. Looks cool.
Yeah, right on the lake, I believe.
Lake or river, some sort of body of water.
Lake or river, good point. Yep, I'm not a Pittsburgh native, so I better hold on that one.
Yeah,
we'll have to get Griffin in here to get us more insight about the Pittsburgh area.
Right. Fellow SOB alum there, and
Yes.
I guess, while we're on the subject here, we haven't touched on it yet, but the Sports Lawn Business Program there at Arizona State forks up.
Yeah,
as they like to say.
Forks up.
So I mean, I guess we haven't talked about how did you kind of get to that program? What were you looking at? Were you looking at other programs? What's your story there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, first I'd like to say that I'm a Mav Up Colorado Mesa alumni. That's where I went to undergrad. Got my sports management degree with a minor in business there. So after finishing up my degree there, it was kind of what's next steps. And like I said, they always tell you experience in the sports industry, which is great, and you got to have it. But for me, I took a step back. This was still during COVID. I'm like, okay, I want to kind of continue to better myself. I want to take the next step. So graduate school came to mind. Now, there's, I won't say a plethora. There's a good amount of sports management programs, but there's outside of like sports management at the master's level, it's kind of unique, and there's not a lot in necessarily the sports industry, let alone anything like that. So I went back and forth. I teetered. I actually was about to go down the path of international business for my graduate degree, but through my searches online and everything, the sports law and business program at Arizona State popped up, and the sports law aspect really jumped at me. It was something that I think is useful in all things, especially in our world, where it's definitely, I could say, so this law is so prevalent, and making sure you're doing things correctly and following the law is so prevalent in our world as a whole, especially in the business world when there's a lot going on. So I knew that was going to be something I wanted to just add to my back there of experience and being able to kind of understand legal concepts and anything like that. So when I saw that opportunity arise, I said, okay, let me take a look at it, and from there just kind of was able to get in the program, and from there just we're here now.
Yeah, quick turnaround there as we mentioned.
Yeah, it is.
And you mentioned the sports law aspect, and you're doing a lot of contract stuff now, as you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
So I guess is that whether I'm trying to remember, were you in the sports? Yeah, I think everyone had to take that sports law class, right? With
of course.
We took that one, so they had that sports law class. I'm trying to think of any other ones that they have. I think it's just the
we
one.
had pro law, pro team
Amateur
sports
law.
ops, amateur law, U.S. law. So there was definitely a couple law classes within the program.
Yeah, I was trying to think more just like the sports related. So yeah, you named them there. I think it was pro sport, and then amateur law. Because I think I took the one with Cal and amateur law, I believe, and then we all took
That's correct.
The big one.
For the viewers that don't know, Callan, co-host of this podcast as well, one of the best. So if you haven't checked out previous podcasts with him involved in it, he brought on some good guests, some big hitters, and Connor and him really performed during those podcasts. So please go back, check them out, enjoy the show.
He did, and as we're on the topic, Callan does help run our weekly newsletter, does a fantastic job, so make sure to check that out. We just touch on emerging topics in the sports industry. We got some new ideas coming. We're going to be doing some deep dives in some programs and giving the viewers a little bit of background information on what kind of some of these programs have to offer. So keep an eye on that as we move forward, in the space. But I know we've talked about it a little bit before, Sal. Maybe it's a bit too much information, but you have been, dabbling in, maybe you're going to go get your JD degree, go to law school possibly. Is
There
that
you
kind
go.
of, in the near future, 3 to 5 years, kind of, do you see
Well,
yourself, in law school? Do you see yourself, running in a different lane? Where do you kind of see yourself?
Connor, another great question, and you're kind of diving into a lot of conversations we have had off air, and specifically about the importance of law,
Yep.
not only in sports but in life and business itself.
Yep.
I think you should always, if whatever it is, kind of understanding all those principles, and if you can have someone that has their law degree and is a practicing lawyer within your circle of trust, I think that's huge and beneficial. So,
Hmm.
specifically on that note, it's always on the table, truthfully to be told. Now, the question is, uh, there's a lot of financial obligations that come
Of
with
course.
going down that route. So, still in the works on kind of divvying out, all right, is this something you fully want to commit to? What are other ways to help lower or help out the financial burden of said
Hmm.
opportunity. So lot of research I've got to continue to do on that end, but at the time being, focused on getting the experience. But to answer your question short, it's always on the table.
Perfect. Yeah, no, and the reason kind of bring some of this stuff up is because we have some of the good conversations. I feel like the people need to hear. They need to know, like, what kind of opportunities are there? How does it work after? If you're already in a certain sector, can you kind of branch out? And I think the answer to that is yes. I think the sports industry, as something else we've talked about to length, the sports industry is transferable. You can work in finance. You can make yourself into the sports industry. You can work somewhere else. Business marketing. You can translate to the sports industry. I know you have thoughts, kind of maybe an opinion on that going.
Oh, just broken down beautifully by yourself. I think the big thing, like you said, all skills are transferable, all experience is transferable. The big thing that I think is so important for young professionals, and specifically, like the big question people ask is, what's the one skill? What's the one trait
Hmm.
I need to get to become successful? Well, I think throughout your profession, and most of this will touch on most of the aspects of business that people will be going down, is the ability to market slash sell.
Yep.
So what I mean by that is because it's a difference. The ability to sell is to influence an individual. So influence an individual to buy said product. Beautiful. The marketing aspect of it is a totally different thing. It's to
Yep.
kind of be able to put to what's the word? Kind of the way I want to detail this is like the creative side, and to kind
Yeah.
of paint the
Promote it and
picture.
just yep.
Yeah, exactly. Promote or like paint the picture of what the service or product could do for the
Hmm.
individual. So being able to touch on both of those aspects. Now, not everyone's going to have the skills to be a seller, and not necessarily. And I consider myself not having that trait. I don't have the ability to sell. So what do I got to do? I got to have the ability to market. I've got to understand how to paint a picture and be creative to be able to sway the people, consumer, to vision what the product or service could do for them.
Right. And now you mentioned kind of the skills and selling and marketing and what have you. So are there, you know, I don't want to put you on the spot, but are you reading books? I know you in the past we kind of sent some book recommendations back and forth. So are you like a 10, 20 page a day type of guy? We've talked about the Sports Business Journal. Where do you
Mm.
derive most of your information from, day to day?
Yeah, day to day right now it's podcasts and kind of light reading. Unfortunately, you're putting me on the spot here, and I'm going to be truthful to the audience because I pride myself on being a truthful individual.
Yep.
Currently, I'm not doing the 10 pages a day that I used to be doing, which I
Hmm.
need to get back on. But yeah, that's I did enjoy reading, and whether it's sports books, whether it's business books, whether it's life books,
Yep.
I kind of all above. I just say read something, read something of value for the kind of the professional personal development range.
Yep.
So, some great examples of that. Top of mind book that I'm still reading and close to finishing is The Good to Great. I think
Yep.
that's a great business book, kind of, and breaking down the difference between good to great. Because people just lump it in. Oh, you're good. Oh, that's all we want to be. Well, that's fine. But there's a limited amount, a specific person that I consider I fall into, and definitely yourself, that strive to be great. And
Yeah.
there's the difference, and being able to find that next step and get to that next gear is something this book kind of demonstrates.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I think, it's, I guess it's more just like information gathering and then filtering it, right? So I think you
Ooh,
can,
that's
right, you got to be able to get a bunch of information from whatever you get it from, like you're saying, Sports Business Journal, ESPN, books, podcasts, whatever. But then it's kind of what you do with that. I just think having information is important. It's imperative, right, in the sports industry. So, if Sal, if you were, a company, we're trying to do some deal, and then you bring something up, then I can think like, oh, I read this article about, maybe the media rights deal. Like I have that in the back of my head, and then we can talk about that. Like I think just knowing and having information, being able to filter it and then apply it to said situation is a trait that I would go as far as say everyone should probably have in their toolkit at some level or another.
That's a great breakdown, Connor. And specifically, what I want to follow up with you on is kind of the part about filtering out the information. So people can gather. We can all gather the information. What we do with it, I think, is so valuable. So if you don't mind, kind of going a little more in depth on the importance of filtering it out for what best suits you and how you operate is going to be critical for the audience.
Yeah, so I think I guess for me and specifically, I would say I try to consume a lot of data, whether that's in like the sports marketing space and kind of NIL. Like I kind of stick into that space. I'm not like super into like I know like ticket sales and a lot of attendance records. I kind of keep that in the back of my mind, but it's not I guess what I'm super into. But I think it's just more collecting the data and then processing it for a given situation, and then being able to filter like, all right, Sal's not going to care about the cricket sales in like we don't. That's not really relevant. That's cool for the cricket people. It's not super relevant to what we're talking about, right? Like if
Right.
I think it's that type of stuff. Like you can have information, but like if the person you're talking to and you're trying to in a business dealing, like it's got to be beneficial for both parties, right? Like they need to be like, okay, like he just used a stat or had this infographic just off the top of his head.
Right.
That's relating to what we're talking about. It's not like something random. I think is kind of what the line is.
No, that's well stated and totally agree. I think that's the big thing. But on top of that, just obviously consume any knowledge you can, gain all the experience, and kind of put it all together. And like you said, just continue developing yourself, I think is going to be the best advice we could give to the audience. And
Yep.
specifically in this industry, it's an essential. It really is.
It really is. And I'm not sure if are you familiar with a human by the name of Ernest Shackleton by chance?
I am not. Please
So-
enlighten us and the audience.
Speak about information that's not super relevant and that I'm now filtering to make relevant. So I'm not super. I know he went to Antarctica of some sort. He has these expeditions, right? And he's got a book. I forget what it's called, but I just know he has one of the quotes that I like, and it says like, what is it? Oh, it's by endurance we conquer, right? So
Beautiful.
I think it's well said, and I feel like it's fitting for the sports industry. You
It's
gotta
right
come
on
in,
it.
you got to get your experience, which is going to be endurance. It's going to take a while, so you got to endurance, and then you conquer. I don't know if you want to go into depth on that, but I think for the sports industry, for the most part, you're coming in at an operations, entry level,
Ticket
what's another word?
sales.
Ticket sales, right? You're
Oh,
coming
you
in
betcha.
at,
Yep.
at the medium to lower entry level jobs, and it's going to take X amount of time to get to a mid level, senior level executive job, right? So I think that quote endurance, by then we conquer is fitting for the industry. If you have any
No.
thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we could go on and on. We can talk on this podcast for the next 2 to 3 hours. But specifically kind of just winding it down here. On that note, it's all about endurance and kind of, I so worded beautifully, endurance conquers is kind of the two main thing. And it's the individuals that are able to just keep on going. One more day, or just one more year, just sticking it out, just continuing to fight, those are the people that's going to pay off for.
Yep.
Because unfortunately, we're in a world, and that's the thing that's so difficult, especially individuals my age, and something that I deal with personally. It's kind of that instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, we can go on our phones, we can get a quick like on Instagram, we get instant gratification. Well, in the sports industry and in business, the corporate environment, that's not the case. It takes years. It takes years before you get that look and that opportunity that you're all looking for, which is great. So it's difficult. It's not easy, but like you said, enduring leads to conquering.
By endurance we
just
conquer. It's something like
Jeez,
that. I have to go
butchered
look
it.
up,
I butchered it for the audience, so
yeah, no,
I'll
it's
have to
something
hear
along
about that
those
later.
lines. No, and all good there. And as you mentioned, we're kind of winding up here. So where can the listeners and followers where can they find you? If they're interested in kind of connecting, where kind of some of the best spots?
Yeah, LinkedIn's the best for the professional. People reaching out for professional advice, more information about the SLB program, anything like that. Salvatore Capritta, LinkedIn. I've got the nice clean headshot from the Arizona State program. So please give me a connection there. We can chat more on a professional level there. And then I've got my Instagram and Twitter at Salvatore Capritta, both of those as well, kind of breaking down all things sports, specifically on the Twitter world, and kind of keeping it light, keeping it on the personal level. So you kind of want to see what I'm all about, you can check out those social medias and help on that end.
Wonderful. Yeah, we'll do it and we'll connect you there. And thanks for all the listeners and viewers listening to another episode of the Constant Sports Podcast. And today you met Salvatore Capritta. Thanks for joining us again today, Sal. So I think we touched on a lot of cool topics, and you'll be able to find us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you can get your podcasts. And feel free to give us a nice 5-star rating as you go forward, and we'll get you some more content here relative to the sports industry. So any last words, Sal?
Connor, you do a phenomenal job with this podcast. Being season 2 completion, right around the corner. I mean, it's the best sports industry podcast out there at the beginning level. Someone that's just came out of, say, that graduate program or kind of that college experience, starting up their podcast, specifically in the sports industry. No one touches what you and Constant Sports Management have got going on here.
Well, we appreciate that. Thanks for everyone being on the ride. And like Sal said, this is the conclusion of season 2, so this will be the 20th episode, which is a feat in and of itself. So I'm glad we could all kind of contribute to that, and we'll be starting season 3 here in the next week or so. So that's kind of where we're at. And yeah, season 3 right around the corner. So thanks again, everyone, for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.